Oh, hi, I didn't see you there. My name is Bliss Foster. Welcome back to the Margiela series where we're exploring every single runway show that Martin Margiela produced at his eponymous house. Today, it is spring-summer 2005. Mwah. This took place in the 19th arrondissement inside the huge Charlie Parker room at the Grand Hall de la Villette. The invitations this season were large white pieces of cardboard in the shape of numbers, but we're going to get back to the cardboard in a second. Hang on. A couple of details about this season. This is another season where the Maison is dividing up the looks by turning the lights on and off and allowing the audience to see each look individually. That's to remove the baggage of this being a runway show and just allow everyone to take in each of the looks individually on their own. Another point about this show's setting is that it had many small sections, making the experience more intimate for the audience. And now that I've been to some Paris Fashion Week shows personally, I can tell you that the audience size does have a pretty dramatic effect on the atmosphere and the mood of how the show is being perceived. By isolating people into curtained off sections, they're trying to make these shows as intimate as possible, despite the fact that the brand was becoming much more financially secure by this time. This is the Tilt show, which takes inspiration from a late party where everybody's like drinking a whole bunch and getting kind of crazy. Like the idea is that in like a funhouse version of being drunk, clothes themselves like kind of turn sideways, just like everything else when you have drank too much. We can see this super clearly when the model walked out in a green dress that was tilted 90 degrees, making the armhole that would be facing up towards the model the entirety of the bodice. And also a funny note here is that in the Bible it says, quote, "Its neckline became an armhole," end quote, which is the exact opposite of what actually happened. There are parts of this book that were clearly just Google translated. Some of them were tilted towards the center of the garment with the hem hanging on one side and the bodice on the other side. In some of the looks, a dry cleaning hanger was still attached, which is kind of a classic Margiela move. And when this look came out in the video, you could audibly hear the audience members cheering. That styling detail was cute as it sort of contributed to the disheveled nature of the show, but also was sort of taking the found object approach that the Maison is known for and using that approach to inspire the styling this season. Hi everyone. This is my father's linen suit. It is a fashion tradition that all industry people have at least one suit from their father, and I am going to confront my mother about this because she said she was going to give it to my brother, and we're going to see about that.
Hello.
Hey Mama, how are you?
I'm okay. What's up?
Are you driving?
We're on the way to the office now. We're a block away.
Well, you're late for work, Mama.
It depends on how you define work.
Okay, well, I'm glad Dad is in the car too. Hey folks, there's a pretty cool linen suit over here that I'm told used to belong to my father.
Yep.
Have you tried it on?
No, but I was told that this is going to Isaac?
Well, okay. Think about it this way. Isaac is more of the height of your dad.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think there's much difference in your sizes. But I think Isaac has a coat that was...
Y'all are sounding really guilty right now.
Take the suit. Try it on.
I'm just teasing y'all. Obviously, I'm not going to like pitch a fit or whatever if Isaac really wants this.
No, try it on.
Try it on. See if you can wear it.
Where'd you get it, Dad?
Oh, I have no... The store.
No.
The store.
This would have been, what, Mike? Maybe Macy's or Rich's?
Man, I can see why I've never heard of a department store called Rich's because the branding of that place probably became a little culturally icky. Okay, I'm trying it on right now. Oh man, that is a little bit tight. Yeah, it's a little bit tight. And the lapels are hilarious. Y'all loved these lapels back then.
Yeah, probably. In the late 70s, I bet.
Yeah, these sleeves are they're a little short. They're very short. They're comically short. Dang, this ain't gonna work. Oh well, I just wanted to tease y'all about that. All right, well, y'all have a good day at work. I love you.
Love you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye, honey.
Other garments were turned 45 degrees, so like that's 90 degrees, that's 45 degrees, right? So they very literally are just kind of like tilted. And along with these tilted clothes were dresses and tops that were made of vintage nylon stockings that Margiela had found in a stash somewhere, which is just kind of like the story of the entire Maison, right? Like, I found these in a stash somewhere. He made use of the nylon by creating these dresses and tops with an irregular patchworking of the stockings, some of which still had stamps printed on them denoting their size and price. So, as is often the case, I mean, we look at this stuff and we go like, oh wow, tilted clothing, but the real like trick of this entire thing is that the clothes have to fit really well as product, which these do. As is often the case, what makes this so impactful is that, this idea here, this is something that I'm sure lots of art school kids and lots of fashion school kids have come up with, and many people have done this before, not even knowing there was a Margiela thing. The thing that sets this apart is that this is actually well tailored. This is actually like fitting on the person's body. They can walk around, live their life, and it actually looks good. The Bhagwan Rajneesh is truly in the details here. That doesn't work at all. I'm not using that. And then the stockings with the stamps that still had the printed sizing and pricing, that fits into the universe so well because it's predated by similar motifs like the tag shirt or the selvage pieces or even the duvet coat, which kept that original duvet manufacturer tag on it. So finding new ways of reusing vintage garments, that's still at the core of what the Maison is doing. More looks! The hand bra looks here and here speak back to the first show, of course, but another reference to spring-summer 1989 is seen in this cardboard on the ground. You may recall that in spring-summer 1989, they lined the runway with cotton and then had models walk in red paint, then leave tabby footprints out on the runway itself, which was later turned into their first artisanal piece as vests in fall-winter 1989. So this season, the runway was cardboard instead of cotton, and for the first time, no tabbies in this season. There are stilettos, which popped through the corrugation of the cardboard, making audible sounds in the room. Like, really, listen to this. You can hear it. Let's talk about that sound! The thing about tabbies and the way that they are made is that because of the cylindrical block heel, you get the confidence of an elevated walk, but without the forced femininity of a stiletto. Stilettos have barely seen any use throughout the history of Maison Martin Margiela. And when they are used, it is to make a point about how much he does not like using them. Like in Spring-Summer 2000, where the stiletto heels were actually thrown onto the runway by themselves, like ripped off from the shoes. And then the shoes were all presented as flats with no heels at all. When I can feel the accent fade, like when I start feeling myself slipping into Australian, I decide that it's time to just move on. So the incorporation of stilettos might feel like a departure from what we've grown to know and love about Martin, which is this kind of appreciating the women in our lives exactly the way that they are, where it's like, oh, no alterations, your walk is already perfect exactly the way it is. I don't think that the stilettos are like tearing that house of blocks down. I think we're just farther expanding the universe of what the Maison is doing. So these heels are presented in a few different ways. There are some models who carried them in their hands. There were some models that had them tied around their necks with elastic, which is very unusual. But the most notable was this thing that we've already talked about, the piercing of the cardboard runway. So there's this theme in the Maison's history, right? In John Galliano era Margiela, they refer to this as the memory of. It had not been codified into a name yet in 2005, where we're talking now. But it's just the memories of things, right? The memory of a pocket that used to be on a jacket, the memory of where a tabby shoe had walked, the memory of a tan through a V-neck t-shirt. So many memories. So all of those are kind of soft, gentle, fond, reminiscing style memories. And then we get to this one, which is this very just like hard, like crack of these heels through this cardboard. Playing with the perception of sexiness has also been a continuous theme throughout the Maison's history. We've seen that in previous seasons with the collars that we tied to Playboy bunnies and Chippendale dancers. But in this season, we see a sign of feminine power in the stilettos, popping that cardboard. Okay, so go with me here. This has kind of a fetishistic feel to it, right? I'm not sure that I can walk this out much further than my gut feeling, but the sultry walk that stilettos force their wearers into, along with that tight popping sound, this just feels like something that a dominatrix would incorporate for clients with a certain sensibility. I forgot to put this back on. Okay, and so if there was any doubt about that, there's also very wide fishnet stockings that are used throughout the show. And in the Bible, it actually says that they bought them from a sex shop, so. But Martin has managed to remove a lot of those sexualized notions from two visual tropes that are so heavily related to sex that, I mean, like fishnets and stilettos, it is so hard to see those in a context where it's not just demanding that the viewer view them in a sexy way. And I mean, in a still image on its own, it does still kind of have that connotation, but when you see it in the context of the runway show, they've done a surprisingly effective job of pulling it out of that context, which reinforces this ongoing notion with the Maison that sexiness is a side of women that they can kind of choose to switch in and out of. And then even besides that, there are other photos where it's like, this isn't sexy in any particular way, neither is this. So like even with the stripper dominatrix elements, the fishnets and the visceral sounds of the heels puncturing the cardboard, the viewer isn't bombarded with a sexual connotation necessarily. Martin and the team are presenting this sexiness as to say women are very multifaceted and they can change the mode that they're in even hour to hour, depending on their mood. And also, I'm not sure if this is meant to be funny, but so this is the sounds that went through most of the runway show. This is motocross racing sounds and like Formula One commentary, and somehow like this mixed with the fishnets and the stilettos and stuff, it seems just being like, man, this is what you want. Are you rock hard or what? Hey, I have fishnets, 2 stiletto heels, motocross sounds, and Formula One racing announcements for Connor. Order for Connor. The shoes were in 2 variations. One was just black and nude, and the other one was the what the book calls the destroyed version, where they've been sanded down and distressed heavily. You have definitely seen these shoes before. They are colloquially referred to as after-party shoes, and some even came pre-glittered. These shoes are surprisingly Baroque looking for what this season is overall, though that seems to mesh especially well with these vests that were made of brass band uniforms that were cut in half and sewn with the different half. Really interesting looking pieces here. I like this a lot. Styling details include sequins that continue onto the model's face, which plays further into the memory of details because it's like the glitter that you take home with you after the party that you'll never forget because the glitter that remains in your carpet afterwards will not let you forget. It also, I mean, if you've watched this whole series, I'm sure you're tired of hearing me say this. It also is a reference back to this show where they were continuing the patterns on the dresses onto the model's skin. Yes, you know about this. And a lot of this seems to be trying to tap into the drunk version of a girl who just got back from a party and like there's glitter everywhere. Her clothing is being worn in weird ways, but definitely not in a seductive way. Like the fetish stuff that's sort of sprinkled throughout, the sounds of motorsport commentary. That sounds like parties you've been to, right? The show ends with a model walking out carrying a glittering sign that reads Finn, indicating the end of the show. This is, at least to me, this is kind of one of the Margiela images that I have some of the fondest memories of. I remember like in 2014 staying up way later than I should have been staying up, just staring at images like this, obsessing over this house and like wishing that I understood it in a more deep and nuanced way. And you all have enabled me to do that. I truly appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. That's it for this week. I really appreciate you all sticking it out with me doing the Margiela series. If you want to watch the extended episodes, I promise they're worth it. We dive into the more like nuanced stuff rather than the big, broad concepts. We kind of dive into like, you know, what does that mean as far as product is concerned? It's really worth your the little bit of money and a little bit of your time. I love you all a lot. I mean it. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.